Welcome to the Creating Your Conditions podcast, a work of understanding the conditions we are given, the conditions we create, and the conditions we have yet to achieve. My name is Vin. I use they, them, theirs pronouns, and I am your host. You can find us at Creating Your Conditions on Instagram and at The Venn Diagram on YouTube. In today's episode, I am interviewing Esmeralda, she, her pronouns, who is a proud Mexican American and Chicago native. She is a former high school teacher and pre-professional dancer and current nonprofit professional. And so, I leave you with this episode. Hey Esmeralda, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Ben, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for making time. Really always appreciate it. And selfishly, I get to know you a little bit better, you know?
Yes, yes. And same here. I hope so.
Yeah. How's your Saturday going? Or like, what day is it?
I know, what day is it? What year? It's going pretty well. It's 10:40 for me, and I woke up, I don't know, around 9-ish. So haven't done much today.
Cool.
But it's going well so far.
Cool.
Yeah. How about you?
I woke up very briefly before this, so I am good. We are chilling.
Okay, perfect. I love that.
And I'm playing with Play-Doh, which is like neon green.
Oh, nice. Green's my favorite color, so
Nice.
I think we're off to a good start.
What color green? What shade green?
Um, I like all the shades, but forest green in
Yup.
particular. Something about that color, I just identify with it. Maybe because of my name, like Emerald, Esmeralda,
Oh.
green.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I love the color.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's my favorite color
yeah.
right now too. I got you.
Oh my gosh, we're in sync. I
Yeah.
love that for us.
Yeah. It's a good color. I would love that as like a car color, like a dark forest green.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Maybe one day we'll make it happen.
Cool. I have my first question for you, which is if you had to
Yes.
describe your life as a sandwich, what would be in it and why?
That's a really good question. Um, let's see. So the first thing that comes to mind is um, like the top bread would be what I know. So like my lived experiences, again, what I know, the information that I have in my mind, all of those things. Like yeah, so that would be the top piece of bread. And then the middle would be my curiosity slash what's yet to come, I guess. So like cause I think I'm a very curious person. I love asking questions and I just love to learn more. So that would be that middle piece, whatever it is, ham, I don't know. And then the bottom slice of bread would be what I don't know. So what I know, curiosity, what I don't know.
Interesting.
And when you like bite into a sandwich and you like start chewing, it all kind of comes together.
Ooh.
And so like that's my life. Like every single day I in my brain I have all of these things that I know, don't know, and then I'm curious about and like I'm still learning about, and then it just kind of exists all in this space. So that's my sandwich of life.
I really love that.
Yeah.
That is the most conceptual answer I've gotten for this question, where you're like, the bread and the ham, it doesn't matter what it is. What matters is what I think it is.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I'm a very big metaphor
Yeah.
person. I might throw them around a lot, but that's what helps me understand my life or like kind of see my life or how it helps me like in how I approach life and living. So, um yeah, that would be my sandwich.
Okay.
And then maybe I'd have some chips on the side. Don't ask me what the chips mean or symbolize, but you need a good bag of chips with a sandwich. So,
We like the balance. We like the balance.
yes.
I really enjoyed that answer. Some people have like explained things about their culture that make up the sandwich, um,
Oh
and
yeah,
you
I can see that.
explained your brain in explaining a
Oh my
sandwich.
gosh,
It's cool.
that's literally like all of my therapy sessions, just me explaining what happens up here. Oh, anyway, we'll probably get more of that
I
later in
like that. I
person.
like that though. I think it says a lot about how reflective you are and intentional you
Yeah.
are too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Cool. So what would you where'd you grow up and what was growing up like for you?
Oh my gosh, that is such an easy question to answer. So I grew up in Chicago, born and raised in Chicago on the north side in particular. And growing up for me, I grew up with my parents and my older sister, so we were a family of four, and very tight knit, I would say overall. Um, my dad, I mean, you know, was a very hard worker, still is a very hard worker, but he was working a lot growing up. And I think at some point when I was a kid, he was working like from Sunday to Sunday. So there were times where like we wouldn't see him too much, or if we did, depending on his shift, we would see him before, like in the morning or like late at night when he would get home. And then my mom, she decided to be a stay-at-home mom, um, like before she had my sister. My sister's like 5 years older than me, for some context. But she decided to be a stay-at-home mom, and that's kind of what she did through um, me growing up and everything. And she just wanted to be at home with us. And we don't have any of her family here in Chicago. Like, we don't like her siblings, which she has a lot of them, but siblings, cousins, nieces, nephews, like they're not in Chicago. And so I think it was hard for her to um, kind of just like leave us somewhere to go work, which is a whole different story. But anyway, because of that, she decided to be a stay at home mom. And so we were very close to her naturally, spending a lot of time with her. And even till this day, I say she's my best friend. I have a really close relationship with my mom. I was always more, a little closer to her than my dad. And I think my sister was closer to my dad, or she was a little bit of both. But I was always just more of like a mom's girl. So um, it, that's a little bit of what our home dynamic was like. And then for grade school, high school, I attended a private Catholic school. And I had mostly nuns as teachers, which was such an experience. Some good memories, some bad memories.
Wait, you said
But
mostly
over
non no
nuns,
oh none. Okay, yeah,
nuns, yeah.
got it. Nuns as
When I was
teachers.
in,
Okay, understood.
yes, like first through eighth grade, I want to say maybe like 90% of my teachers were nuns. Um, and yeah, it was an interesting experience, but it was the school that was closest to us. And my mom was very, like set on sending us to private schools. I think my dad was a little bit more like in the middle, like, as long as they go to school. But my mom was like, no, like, I want them to go to a private school. And she really liked the ones that we went to. So, yeah, that's a little bit about that. And then overall, I was very active growing up. I played basketball for a few years. I was also in karate for a little bit. I read a lot. I remember spending a lot of our summers when we were not in Mexico going to the library, or you might be familiar, but like Milwaukee Avenue, the strip. Back in the day before all of Milwaukee Avenue was gentrified, like those
Hmm.
mom and pop shops, we would go and like spend our afternoons walking around, then we'd grab food. So yeah, that's a little bit about my upbringing slash family dynamic.
Yeah. You said, your family is and you have always been pretty like close knit. What does that
Mm-hmm.
relationship look like? Close knit as in we're there for you, ideologically aligned, or are there like different things that you
Mm-hmm.
don't touch?
I think so. I think it's a little bit of everything, to be honest. And I can speak specifically to like my relationship with my mom. Um, I think she's always been there for me and my sister, and we've been through challenging situations either on our own, just growing up, or like as a family. And she always made sure to um, be present, hear us out, like validate our feelings, whatever it was that we were going through. My mom has always been a very like let's sit down and talk about this,
Mm,
but not like in a let's sit down and talk about our feelings way, but like let's sit down and like tell me what you're feeling, like what are you thinking, what's happening.
mm,
And she wouldn't approach it from a like let me solve this for you approach or anything. Like she genuinely just wanted to know like what was happening, and I think her creating those spaces is what allowed me at least to feel that closeness to her, and build that trust over time. And obviously as I got older, like the kinds of situations I was in changed naturally, right? um like hardships, challenges, situations where I just didn't know what to do, like those things changed over time, and she kind of changed with me too, if that makes
yeah,
sense. Like now when I have a problem, like I'll go to her as an adult and she'll treat me as an adult. um so I think that's kind of what built that closeness between us, and that open communication, that sense of trust, and that sense of being able to lean on her freely without any worry.
yeah. It
Mm-hmm.
sounds like when you had those talks, and you can tell me if this is wrong, but like she kind of led with curiosity and like wanting to know what you were going through instead of
Yes.
like, you need to do this because I'm your mom.
Yes, exactly. And one thing that she would always say, and again, till this day, she says it too, whenever we have those kinds of conversations, she'll usually end with, at the end of the day, like, no one knows this best but you. So, like, that's kind of reassurance to me that we had this conversation, you gave me your insight, but what I decide to do next is on me, you
Right,
know?
right. Even though
Um,
she could tell
so that's
you
always,
like
yeah,
to do X, Y, and Z, she's like, you're your own person, go figure it out.
exactly,
That's
exactly. Like
cool.
I already gave you a foundation growing up, obviously in my childhood. I'm giving you my insight now, but take what you need and leave what you don't, essentially.
Mm, that's a good
Yeah,
approach. What do
yeah.
you think?
It's worked so far.
Hell yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
What do you think about her upbringing made her think in this way or shaped her in this
Oh,
way?
that's a great question. So she grew up in Mexico, and very large immediate family. She has, well, it's eight total, seven without her. So she has three sisters, five brothers, like very big immediate family, very large extended family. And I think what shaped her to be the person she is and the parent that she is are her parents, which I unfortunately never got to meet. They both passed away long before I was born, but I've gotten to know them through my mom, through her storytelling, and through the storytelling of other relatives. And um, from what I've heard, my grandma in particular, she always approached any situation with kindness and patience. Um, she always saw the best in people. She like never judged. I think um, she just wanted to learn more, and she was always very giving. So I think my mom having her as a parent and having, I guess, a similar relationship, right, to what I have with my mom, like that's kind of what uh, built her to be the person she is. And then my grandpa, my mom's dad, he was a little bit rougher. Like not just like in his being and his physicality, like his voice apparently was very strong. You could hear him like down the block. And granted, homes in Mexico, like some parts of the homes don't have roofs. So like you could maybe hear it outside, but he was the opposite of my grandma, but still like at the end of the day, at least with his children in particular, like came from a place of kindness and care. And so I think that's kind of what, I don't know, maybe like those things are reflected in my mom now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you see these traits in your aunts and uncles too, if you are in touch with them?
I don't really see that. I think that,
Fair.
listen, there's beauty in large families, but there's also a lot of different personalities.
Yes.
Um, Many different personalities, and I think all of them, my aunts and uncles, in their own ways, like yeah, there's bits and pieces from my grandparents in them, um but I don't know if maybe life happened and they changed because of that, but I think I see it more in my mom than I do in them.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, yeah.
And you said your mom's family's not really in Chicago or in the US or
No. So I have some cousins, so some of her nieces and nephews in Chicago, or not Chicago, sorry, in the US, kind of scattered around. But in Chicago, no. Our closest relative is in Michigan. So
okay.
just, a state over, but no one nearby.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I got you. And then since we talked about your mom a bit, like what's your
Mhm.
relationship like with your dad too?
So I think we are close, but it's a different dynamic. I think him grow or not him, sorry, him working a lot when I was growing up, it kind of naturally um, brought a little bit of physical distance from us, or created a physical distance. Um, and then even once I like started school and had activities and things like that, like he continued to work. So when I played basketball, for example, and had games on the weekends, um, he would usually be working during that time. So like it was just my mom and sister who would show up, you know. Um, we still shared the experience after, like once we were all home and we kind of caught him up on the game and things like that. But um, again, I think that naturally kind of brought a little bit of a distance between us. And I think in general, too, because of my mom's presence and the relationship I developed with her, I would naturally just go to her for things versus my dad. And I think that was, again, this is just all kind of situational, the nature of how things were. And I think that those moments in my childhood really set me up for what I see now with my dad. Um, like, we are still like we still have a close ish relationship, but it's a different dynamic to what I have with my mom, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The frequency that you see people and that they're able to be there, because I'm sure if he's working that much
exactly.
still, he's also just
Yeah.
tired. Like,
I think that's
yeah,
it. And I think as a kid too, like there's so much that you just don't know
yeah,
about your world around you that when you grow up, you're like, oh, this kind of makes sense, or I'm starting to see how these things are connecting.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I appreciate both of my parents and love them very much. So it's just, I mean, I think with all families, maybe we have different dynamics with different people, and that's what it
yeah,
is.
yeah. And then what was it like having a sibling that was like 5 years older than you?
Oh my gosh. It
I'm sure when you
was
were younger, it's very
so fun.
different than now. You know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We it was really fun. We've always had a really great relationship. It's just the two of us. And it's funny because my sister tells me, and my mom tells me too, that like she would like pray for me. Like, dear God, I want a sister. Like, please bring her to our house, drop her off.
Wherever
um,
they come
you
from.
know, yeah, exactly. Like fast shipping, please. And apparently, when she went to go see me in the hospital, she was so disappointed because I wasn't like ready to play. You know, I wasn't talking, I wasn't walking. And my mom had to explain, like, this is your sister. She's a baby. She's going to grow up. I guess my sister just had to be okay with that. But no, we had a really good relationship. I think that with all siblings, maybe you have moments where like you argue or you get mad about them taking your thing, or for some time too, growing up we'd shared a room, and so I remember her like staying up late reading. I wanted to sleep. And so I'm like yelling at her to turn off the light, or like she would be on her phone, like those kinds of things. Like, they just happened, and it is what it is. But now that we're adults, I think we've formed more of a friendship, you know? Because as siblings, you're kind of locked in with each other just naturally. Like there's you have no choice, I guess, but to have some kind of connection to this person. And then you kind of decide whether you like want to be close or not. But now that we're adults, we've stepped more into a friendship relationship where we are making more active choices of like spending time together
Hmm.
and going out to do things together, um, and finding things in common. So yeah, and then I think too, till this day we have fights
Yeah.
where it's like like, can I did this already, can you do this, or like when we help our parents with things like doctor's appointments or things like that, we're like, can you go, no, can you go? So those kinds of things still happen to this day. And I think also just being from an immigrant family, like that's that's been a conversation for us ever since we were young, like supporting our parents and navigating this city, this country. So um yeah, no, we have a pretty good relationship overall.
Yeah. Yeah, all of those immigrant child responsibilities of,
Exactly.
hey, I need you
Yep.
to be a translator. I need you to read this form for me. Actually, I need you to fill out the form. I know you're only 10, but
Yes.
like, you know,
Yes.
um,
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
100% believe that's why it gives me so much anxiety to try to navigate anything new in like insurance or anything like that, because it just brings me back to where I'm like, I was way too young to try to figure this out back then.
Yes. Yes, me too.
Um,
And I think growing up, or I should say, she's the one that took the lead on those kinds of
yeah.
things because she was older. Also, I should mention that we grew up in a Spanish speaking household, like strictly Spanish speaking. So, when she was older, knew English and everything, like she kind of took ownership of those things.
Mm,
Now that we're adults, we try to balance it out a little bit, or as much as we can, I should say.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's a very real thing
Yeah.
for immigrant homes or families.
Yeah. I'm curious, how do you think your relationship with your sister like set like a precedent or like a standard for the friendships you make outside, that are not family?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I think there's two things here. So one, um, like my relationship with my sister is, and this probably can resonate with a lot of people, but despite whatever we're going through, despite what kind of arguments we've had, or whatever the case is, like at the end of the day, we'll come together and we'll kind of just um like look past that, which maybe is not the best dynamic, I don't know, but like we'll kind of have a disagreement, like you this, you that, blah blah blah, and then like an hour later I'm like, hey, do you want to go with me to grab coffee? Like I kind of don't want to go alone. She'll be like, yes. And then we'll like ride in the car kind of in silence with the radio on a little bit, and then we'll just kind of start talking, and then we forget everything.
Yeah.
And so I think we've kind of stepped out of that a little bit. Like now we try to kind of like talk things out a little bit more and all of that. But my sister is just such a giving person. Again, just like my mom, I think. Like she is so giving, and not just with me, but with everyone in her life, her friends, other family, even strangers on the street. Like she will stop and she will give you what she can. um and she is also the kind of person that shows up, um like in any kind of situation, whether it's someone calling her and like, maybe she can't really take the call, like no, she will step out, do what she needs to do, and like take the call from this friend to see what's happening. And so I think because of what I've observed in her in our own relationship, I've I've looked for those things in my own friendships, and also in just myself as a friend too. Like as a friend, do I show up for my people? Um, and am I supportive of my friends, of the people in my life? Are they supportive of me? How do we show up for each other? um, what do we bring into each other's lives? How do we, because, with friends too, there's things that come up, right? Disagreements, whatever the case is. But like, how do we move through those or past those? So I think there's been a blend for sure in the relationship with my sister and then in my friendships.
I love that. It's good. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
Hmm.
I love the whole like forgive and forget little bit there.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. It's like at the end of the day, like we have nothing but love for each other. Like
Yeah.
you're my sister. I am going to be here for you
Yeah.
until the day that I am not here on this earth. you
Yeah.
know? Like she's my number one. So we'll move through the little disagreements.
Yeah.
It's not gonna, rock our world.
Yeah. I got you. Um, just trying to give us back some of the timeline stuff for
Yes.
context. But you mentioned you were in karate and in basketball. How did you end up
Hmm.
like in those extracurriculars, and did you enjoy them, or were you, just made to do them?
Just made do. Yeah. So I think again, having, so my sister played basketball,
I see.
and growing up we would go to her games. It was this one of a school's gym, not our school gym, a different school gym. We would go. They had a really nice little like concession section with snacks and drinks. And then like every basketball game was like a proper school event. It's like a lot of people turned out for sixth grade basketball. You know what I mean? Like it was fun. So I think being in that space myself on the weekends and having my friends join, like uh it was a really fun environment to be in. And I did appreciate the sport. We also grew up like watching like the NBA on the weekends. We would follow the Bulls team pretty closely, or at least the team from our generation. But it was always just kind of a present thing in my life, basketball. And so when the time came for me to um, be able to join the sport at school, I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I think this would be really fun. So I did that from fourth through I think seventh grade. And then karate, I kind of dabbled in a little bit. I might have gone to like just a few sessions.
Okay.
Did a few kicks, and that was it. So my karate career was very short. But
Didn't have
basketball
the same hype
definitely
as
was.
basketball.
It did not. No, there was no concession stand. People were not turning up. and there was
We
no
like an
music.
audience. We
Like,
like an audience.
yes, we need some like energy in the room. We need people to boost up our energy. So that was karate was not giving that. Um, but
It makes me laugh. It makes me laugh because I also know you dance. So like, there's just
I
that makes
know
so much sense now.
that was the start of my life being a stage, you know? And
Yep.
anyway, so funny. But no, it was really fun. And I think socially too, I always say this to the people in my life. Growing up, I was out there as a kid. Like I was outside on the weekends. I was seeing all of my friends just about every weekend. Nowadays you can't see me outside like every weekend. You know what I mean? Like things have changed. So it was just socially, it was just so fun. I was able to like build a lot of friendships or grow friendships, like existing friendships. Um, so it was just such a fun time, and I look back on it, and it just makes me so happy to relive those moments. Yeah.
I got you. I got you.
Hmm.
Um, Trying to move us again along the timeline.
Yes.
But since you know have been in the field of education in your professional career, what was
Hmm.
what was your parents' view on education? Maybe around high
Hmm.
school, and then you know, were you like expected to go to college, and what did that look like?
Gotcha. Yes. So my parents, they had similar views on education, but different experiences. So, my mom in Mexico, she attended college, she got her bachelor's degree, and she pursued her career for a few years, like
What'd she do?
shortly
What was
after
her bachelor's degree in?
accounting.
Okay.
Accounting, yeah. And she actually got a really great job at her hometown, like one of her hometown's cultural centers. And so like she was doing really well and she really enjoyed what she did. She was always a very big like numbers person. So that was her experience. My dad, on the other hand, he did not finish his education, didn't go to college, and he started working pretty young. I think when he was 17. Um, and so yeah, so like very different experiences with education. But at the end of the day, they both felt very strongly about my sister and I going to college. And I think, like, I can't think of a specific moment, but that was instilled in us from a very young age. This idea of going to college, having a career. And then my sister and I, too, like, on my mom's side of the family, all of her siblings went to college. So when we would go to Mexico, we would learn about like their professional lives. Like, for example, one of my mom's sisters, she's a doctor. So, you know, my sister and I being kids going over to her house, we would hear all of these stories about her in the hospital and different, you know, patients that she was seeing. So we were always kind of in that space. And then even on my dad's side, while a lot of my relatives didn't go to college, the few that did, they still shared like those experience with my sister and me. Um, so yeah, so it was always kind of woven into our upbringing. And me being the youngest too, seeing the path that my sister was on of, you know, starting high school, being involved, um, doing things because you're thinking about your college application, like those are things that I saw growing up. And so when I got to high school, it was just kind of, it was, I want to say expected of me, but like internally for me, like it was also just normal to do things and think about college being my next step.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. What did you
Yeah.
end up want? Well, did you always know you were gonna do education?
No. So I actually wanted to be a doctor,
Okay.
and for different reasons. So first I had a like health condition of my own, which is a whole different episode. Like that's a whole different story. But I had a health condition of my own that was that had a very like strong impact on my life growing up. So having that experience myself was kind of a motivating factor. Again, seeing my aunt in Mexico and her experience, and then in high school too, a group of us freshman year, it had to be freshman Latino students. So like that's me. We were invited to join this like pre-medical program for high school students, to support you throughout the 4 years of high school and then prepare you for college so that you were on a pre-med track or like a healthcare track
Ah.
essentially. So I did that for all 4 years, again with the mindset of pursuing a career in like the medical field. But I got to college, took one bio class, and I was like, no, this is not for me. It was the one W I took in college. I just had
Withdrawal?
to.
Withdrew from the
Exactly,
class?
yeah.
Okay.
I had to. So
So, what did that
yeah.
program do for the 4 years if they didn't expose you to different concepts like that?
So I mean, it was a pretty good program, but I think at the time, like I was in high school, I was like, this is interesting. I can do this, But so, anyways, I can answer your question.
Mm.
So we would get together once a month at the high school, and then like a school bus would come pick us up, and then they would take us to UIC because that's where the program was being held, and it was like a workshop
University of
essentially.
Illinois Chicago.
Illinois at
Okay,
Chicago,
got
yeah.
it, got it.
On their what was it? Their like College of Medicine
Okay.
campus, West Campus. And so it was a workshop day on Saturdays. We were there from like 9 to 2 or 3. And we would have either medical students or doctors come in and lecture us on different topics, or they would present like case studies, like their own case studies. And then we would do some like hands on work. So I learned how to suture.
Oh,
I did a
wounds.
little bit of that.
Yeah.
We saw cadavers, like they I mean, I think we had our parents sign a form or something, but they took us into the cadaver lab and
A
like showed
cadaver
us various
lab.
cadavers.
Wow.
Yeah, like this was official. Like they really threw us in, and looking back on that, like that was a really great experience.
Yeah.
Too bad I didn't pursue medicine, but but it was very immersive, very hands-on. I think what might have changed for me was like learning having to learn the content in a class to then apply it in practice. Like that's when I felt that disconnect. um and then granted, I was older, I was a college student, so maybe my mindset might have shifted um subconsciously, I don't know, but that's when I realized like, maybe I don't actually want to like learn this to apply it,
Yeah. Yeah.
if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It does. It does. And then, so when you shifted away from that, what did you decide to do next?
Yeah, so when I was in college, or actually the first, sorry, I'm like trying to think of my timeline here. After my first year, this was May,
Oh, and where'd you go
an
to school?
opportunity came up. Oh, University of Illinois at
Okay.
Chicago,
You didn't
UIC.
go to UC.
Yeah. Um, After my first year, an opportunity came up for an on-campus job at the university's wellness center, and I I wasn't necessarily looking for a job, but the opportunity seemed like really great. I was very interested in like what I would do in this role. And I did want to start gaining like, I guess, professional experience, work experience, I don't know. But I wanted to tap into that. And um it was end of my freshman year too. So at this point I was pretty familiar with the school, the campus and all of that. So I was like, okay, let me interview and see what happens. I ended up getting the job, and through this role, I had to facilitate to students and professors on campus on various topics like stress management, alcohol safety, safe sex, like all of these different things. And once I started doing those or leading those workshops, I guess, I was like, oh, I kind of like this. Something about like being in a space like that and um, doing the prep, before and then having to present it to a group and then engaging in conversations like that. And I don't know, like it just,
Something sparked.
it something sparked. Yeah.
Mm.
And like things kind of started to come together. And I didn't mention this before, but growing up, I would have some cousins come over from time to time around my age, and I would sit them down and I would pretend I was the teacher. um,
Oh.
I don't think they wanted to do that, but they did what they did. Like they sat down, they had their books, and I was like, okay, school time, and I would just like start teaching them who knows
Wait,
what.
what age were you when
Um,
you were like the cousin that was the tutor?
like 6, 7,
Wow, it's
maybe,
really young.
or even a little bit younger.
Yeah.
And so
Go over to
so
my
yeah,
cousin's
so
house and we're all doing homework and she's like the teacher.
listen, I was a fun teacher for being a
Wow,
kid.
okay.
At least that's what I remember. Let's not get them on the podcast.
We'll
But
have to cross-reference that
um
with your cousin's statements.
let me say it here. They were great students, okay? All A+ students. But yeah,
Oh,
like
cool.
that moment for me in that role was kind of defining. And then after each workshop, we asked for feedback, and I would look at the feedback that I would get. And I was 19 or 19, yeah, 19, 20ish. Just started this, no former like public speaking experience or anything, and I was getting pretty good feedback. So I was like, oh, I can actually do something. I enjoy it. People are saying I'm kind of good at it. They enjoyed the workshop. So, like, I can do something with this. What can that be? And then that's what kind of led me to teaching. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
It
after
just kind of,
huh?
yeah. It just kind of like, I don't know, just
Yeah.
a little wave.
Yeah. A little way.
A little wave, yeah.
um so after college what did you do? And sounds like teaching kind of fit like some of those pieces.
Yeah.
So how'd that
Oh
come
my
about?
goodness. So let me tell you. So I was supposed to graduate. This could be another
Let me
episode.
tell
I was
you.
supposed to graduate spring 2020. That's all I have to say.
I
Like,
see. I see.
oh my goodness. So spring 2020 was my last semester of undergrad, and as like an education major. I'm combining words. That was my semester of student teaching, which is like the final step before getting your teaching license and of
Hmm.
course graduation. And so I did start student teaching in January. I was at a high school on the northwest side of the city, and I was teaching seniors. Seniors. I was English language arts, and I had such a wonderful group. Oh, they were so. That was like my first time fully stepping into that teacher role, and and I was also like not that much older, than these
Yeah.
seniors. And so it was an interesting thing at first because I was like, kind of on the same wavelength as them. Like at that time, TikTok was kind of um, firing up a little bit. So like they would talk about TikTok, I would know what they were talking about. We would laugh, crack jokes, things like that. But then I also had to be serious and again, kind of channel my inner teacher.
Your
um,
inner 6 year
and
old
then
teacher, you mean?
yes, exactly, where I was all about business. And so and also because I had a background in the performing arts. I danced for 7 years. My the teacher I was working with, she asked if I could also student teach drama
Oh.
slash theater. because she was like, "Oh, you danced, you were in theaters, you know the language, this that," and I was like, "Oh, of course." So I started teaching drama slash theater, and we actually prepared some of the students for like this monologue competition here in the city, and one of them made it pretty far. It was so fun. It was a really good start to my student teaching. But then of course March came around, and then COVID hit, or I guess the rise of COVID, pandemic, lockdown.
Yeah.
And everything took a turn. I started doing student teaching online, but it wasn't the same, obviously. And then from the time from the time that the school closed to the time that we started remote learning, like a few weeks had gone by, because I think the school was trying to figure out like what to do, or at least me, sorry, like me starting remote learning with the school, like a few weeks had gone by, because obviously the priority was the students. So um, I did eventually finish like the semester with them remotely. My graduation was online at UIC, and it was just such a like it's just not what I had envisioned for myself for graduation after 5 years of undergrad. Um, and then I didn't finish a traditional student teaching experience. Um, it was just really hard. It was a really hard time, and like on top of all of that, like the unknown of just everything happening in the world. Um, so that was that semester, and when we got to the summertime, like once the semester had officially ended and all of that was in the past, I was thinking about my next steps. And I was like, okay, I got my bachelor's degree, I finished college, I have my teaching license. Do I start teaching remotely, or like what else do I do? And so I was talking to my sister, and she was like, why don't you just pursue your master's right now? Like it's kind of it's a good time, you know? Um, and I gave it some thought. I did a lot of research that summer trying to figure out like which programs there were, what I could do, what I was interested in. Long story short, I ended up applying to several master's programs. Um, I accepted one of them at UIC, so I went back to UIC for my master's. And that's what happened like right after college. So I didn't teach right away. I just went straight to my master's.
Is your master's in what?
It's an education, language, literacy, and learning.
Okay, got you.
Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm. But it sounds like you had some hesitations about education in the way that you had previously thought. At least, like maybe your
Yeah.
fourth into fifth year, because obviously fifth year took a turn um, with the
Hmm.
pandemic. Um,
Yeah.
but you still decided to do like the master's program. What ultimately like made you like go through with it, even though you were having hesitations? Or it sounds like you were.
I think I was, and not just about like what to do next, but just about so many things. And again, I think because of the year that it was, at least for me
Yeah.
personally, I think in the end, I decided to go for my master's because of how I was doing emotionally and mentally. And again, all as a consequence of the pandemic and lockdown. Um, Again, like my in-person graduation, I remember when I got the email that it was canceled and it was going to be online. I broke down completely. I was so sad. And then literally, like, just so many things that had happened, and all, like, I was not in a place to start my teaching career and like be there for students in the way that I knew I would need to be. Like, I just didn't think it would be fair, you know? Um and I also didn't finish my student teaching, which at the time, like, it wasn't a factor. It wasn't a deciding factor, but looking back on that now, I'm like, I'm kind of glad I didn't go straight into teaching, because not having finished my student teaching, like I felt the consequences of that once I did start teaching, like as a job. Um, and then the last thing I'll say is that the master's program that I got into and completed was one that I really enjoyed, and I found a lot of alignment in, personally and professionally. So at the end of the day, like I knew that, you know, whatever the outcome was, like I was going to enjoy my time in this program, and I did. So yeah, it was just a mix of things that kind of led me on that path in the end.
I got you.
Yeah.
Um, since you kind of briefly mentioned this, but why do you think you weren't ready to be that teacher for the students at that time?
Mm, I think I don't know if I like, if you ask me now, like, did you have anxiety before 2020? I don't know what I would say, because I'm not sure. But in 2020, I think that's when I like became an anxious person. Like that's when anxiety almost became like a physical thing to me.
Mm,
Um and because of that, I mean, it really affected me. It affected my confidence, my outlook on life, my motivation. Like I was just not in a good place, which is what led me to therapy the next year in 2021. But like just emotionally, I was like a bubble, like
mm,
just the slightest little thing, and like I would break down. And again, I think it's all a consequence of what happened earlier in the year. And so again, I just thought, like, I'm barely here for myself. Like I'm barely getting by,
mm,
and you know, there's still a lot happening, and like how am I going to show up for others every single day, especially during this time when we're still in remote learning, and COVID cases are still on the rise, when I'm barely showing up for myself every day. So yeah, so I just thought that if I started teaching, I would do a disservice to the students. And granted, I'm sure everyone to an extent was kind of going through it, so it wasn't just me, but I also had no teaching experience at that time. So I just felt like it wasn't my time to start.
yeah, I respect
Yeah.
your ability to see that. You know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
It was hard.
yeah, and a lot of people are not honest enough with themselves about what they can and can't do, and then they do the
Mm-hmm.
thing, and then they don't do a good
Mm-hmm.
job, and the
Yeah.
people around them suffer. So
Yes. Yeah. I
yeah.
feel like I'm the opposite. I'm too self-aware. I really am. I'm the complete opposite, where I'm just like too in tune with my feelings and my thoughts, and which I guess, in this case it was a good thing, but
Yeah,
um yeah,
in other manifestations, it's also like an extreme level of anxiety, right? Where you like don't do
exactly. Which
anything because
yeah.
you're like, I can't. I don't think I can. You know,
Mhm.
that
Exactly. Yes.
balance
Yep.
for sure.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so what happened after your masters?
So, I real quick, during my masters, I actually did some remote teaching. It was part-time. Um I taught this like remote class to students who were in the same program I was in
Oh,
high school, the pre-med program.
oh,
Um,
whoa, that's
yeah, so like
trippy.
I kind of like gave back, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't like a science course. It's like, no, 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 no. It was supposed to be like a career development course where I taught things from like resume building. We also talked a lot about like um healthcare and like Latino communities and identity politics within like the medical field. Like it was a really great class, and my group of students, they were fantastic. So um that experience kind of built me back up again as a teacher, you know, like, okay, I can kind of do this again now. I think I'm showing up, you know. So anyway, so I got my master's. I graduated in fall 2021, and then at that point, I wasn't going to get my PhD. You know, like I had to move on to the next thing. So I did start applying to teaching jobs, and I ended up, you know, getting an offer, and I started teaching in January of 2022. And I will say I only taught for a year with high school students, but that year felt like a decade. And I've heard a lot of other teachers, new teachers, veteran teachers, say that the transition from remote learning to in person was one of the most difficult things that they had ever experienced. And I don't know if it was the timing or what, but being a first year teacher when that happened was so difficult. It was like all of my education about teaching and best practices like went out the window because this was a whole different like thing that we were dealing with in education. And I think till this day maybe we're still feeling the effects of it. But um yeah, I mean there were a lot of great moments, a lot of highlights, but very, very challenging things as well, both in the school space, but also like internally as I did this for the first time. Yeah,
Yeah. And so at the end of that year, you made a different choice.
I did. I sure did. And again, that self reflection, that self awareness, like I reached a point where I knew I had to make a change for myself and again also for the students. I felt like I was not showing up the way that they needed their teacher to. And so I decided to leave teaching. And it's a decision that I was so confident about. And I knew that it was the best thing for me, for the people in my life, because I think they were feeling the effects of me not being okay. And then for the students in the school. So I decided to leave. And then that's what led me to my current workplace in the nonprofit world. And I don't see myself going back to teaching, at least in the school, like ever again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you don't have to say where we're at or where you're at now. We
Yeah, yeah.
accidentally said we we're former coworkers.
Yes.
But what is it that you want to do, I guess, because I
Mm-hmm.
know that education is obviously still important to you, but I guess what do you
Yes,
want
yeah.
that to look like next?
I am still trying to figure it out, to be honest. I definitely want to continue in the nonprofit space, I think.
Okay.
Um, Especially when it intersects with education or career development, because that's I think those things have always kind of been linked in my life and in the past experiences, and they're things that I really enjoy and I'm passionate about. So I know I want to continue on this path, but like I can't say like I want this title or this role or you know like 5 years from now I need to be here. I think I've kind of stepped away from that mindset, especially these last few years, seeing how things can change so quickly
Mm,
and how life can happen. And so I'm still very much on this path of growth and learning and openness, but I'm not setting like hard goals or deadlines for myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got you. That's fair.
Hmm. Yeah.
You have a good head on your shoulders. You'll figure it out.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. I'm trying.
I have one last question for you. Um,
Oh, yes.
Share a message you would give to your younger self. So, how old are they, and what is the message?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So, I mean, this kind of, what comes to mind now kind of ties in with what we just talked about, but I would say I am 23, 22. Um, I would tell myself, and this is a little bit cliche maybe, but like really be present in each moment and really enjoy the moment because you don't know when it will be your last. And I say that thinking about like my senior year of college and just so many other moments in life where you're with someone for the last time, you do something for the last time, and you don't know it's your last time.
Mm,
And I just don't want to be in a situation where I look back and I'm like, was I really present? Did I really enjoy it? Did I really give all that I could? Like, so I know we didn't touch on this, but like, I think back to the last time that I performed as a dancer, and I'm like, wow, how did I feel that day? And did I know it was my last time? And
mm,
I don't know. So I would just kind of sit her down and be like, listen, like, you don't have to give your 1,000% each moment, but like really take it in because you can't you can't repeat things in life. So just really like sit with that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Um, I haven't been to a dance class in like over a year, and it's feels really weird for me.
Yeah. Um, there's this one line from a Linkin Park song. I'm not sure, I forgot what it's called. But there's this one line. I love this song. And this one line it's they sing it right when like there's a music change and it says the hardest part of ending is starting again.
Ooh,
And I think right now in my where I am in life, like that just resonates with me so much because I feel like I'm slowly coming back from 2020 and so many things that I stopped doing or that just kind of came to an end for me without a conscious decision. Like I'm trying to start them up again
yeah.
and that's so hard. So yeah, that's a great song. I love
Mm,
it.
thanks for sharing
Yeah.
that,
Hmm.
and thanks for being on the podcast. Just appreciate learning a lot
Thank you
more
for
about
having
you.
me. Yeah, this was so fun. Thank you, Vin. I appreciate you. I appreciate you having this space for the world and um yeah, I'm so happy I was here.
Yeah. Is there a way that our listeners can find you or reach out to you if you want to be reached?
That's a great question. I'm a very private person online, which is kind of funny because I used to want to be a YouTuber. Um, that we did not get into that. I was an aspiring YouTuber for a few years. Um, again, we could do a part two, but I'm gonna say if people want to reach out to me, maybe they can connect with you if that's okay, and then you can let me know. But
Yeah.
I'm just very private on my social media,
Yeah.
so I think for now I'll just say like if you want to reach me, love it, let them know, and we can connect. We'll make it
No
happen.
worries. Yeah, yeah, I got you. I want to hear
Yeah,
about
thank
this
you.
YouTube journey.
I know. Oh, so much, so much.
Cool. Well, thanks again for being on the podcast. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your time. Yeah,
Yeah, thank
I'll
you.
see you around.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Creating Your Conditions, a work of understanding the conditions we are given, forged from, and we have yet to face. You can follow us on Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube at Creating Your Conditions, which you can also find in the description of this episode. Again, my name is Vin. It's been a pleasure being your host. Keep creating, and I'll catch you in the next episode.